Hi, my name's Penny. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. So for those of you who don't know, Mira Grant is a pen name of Seanan Mcguire, who wrote the Wayward Children series, which is very popular on BookTube at the moment. And she's also written a whole bunch of other books, some of which I have read and really enjoyed, including a short story that was about mermaids, which is what Into the Drowning Deep is about. But I believe that she's writing under the pen name Mira Grant because this is an adult horror book, which isn't really the same brand as Seanan Mcguire's more fantasy stuff. So I don't have the book with me because I did have to return it to the library. In fact, I did have to rush reading it a bit because it was due back at the library. I probably could have renewed it, but renewing books just feels a little bit like failing, so I didn't renew it. I rushed through it, and I do think that hurt my enjoyment of it a little bit, but it was okay. I still really liked it. So what I didn't know going into this book is there is actually an earlier novella. You definitely don't need to read it because the events of that novella are summarized at the start of the first book, but it does set up the scene. So basically what you've got is this entertainment company. In the novella, they have funded this ship to go out and find proof of mermaids out in the middle of the ocean. Now, I assume in the first novella you get the story of it, but in the full book, all you're getting told is that the ship was found and everybody on the ship was dead. However, there was some footage left over that showed some clips of mermaids essentially killing people. Now, most people believe that this was a hoax put on by the entertainment company just to try and get viewers, but because everybody's dead, it really hasn't helped their reputation. And so now what they're doing is they've set up a second mission. Is that the right word? Anyway, there's a second like a massive cruise ship gonna go out with a whole bunch of scientists and reporters and also security. Just a whole bunch of people are going to go out on this cruise ship. It's supposed to have amazing security features so that if they do run into mermaids, they will be able to protect themselves. But the plan is basically to prove once and for all that mermaids do exist and that that's what happened to the initial ship. Now, there are also some characters who are on the ship who are kind of the main ones and the ones that I really liked, who are related to the initial ship. Not that they were on it, but that their relatives were on it or they were somewhere in some way connected to it, and so they want to get that emotional closure or find out what really did happen to their loved ones. So this book included the most scientific mermaids I have ever read about in a book. I really loved that approach, and just because so many of the characters are scientists, it really made that perspective seem really genuine and come across really well. In fact, I might even go as far to say that this is the best mermaid book I have ever read. Book though, because I think I've read some better short stories, but in terms of books, this is definitely up there in mermaid literature. Now, in terms of characters, there were a handful of them that I really loved. There were a couple of really great romances that were like, sometimes in like horror type books when there's a romance going on the side, you're like, hey guys, you're fighting for your life. Maybe you could put romance on the side for now. But these romances weren't totally over the top. I felt they were quite realistic and I really enjoyed them. And there was also really great representation in this book. So you have an autistic character where autism isn't the main thing about them. It's kind of just mentioned on the side, but there is also some signs that other characters are willing to do things to accommodate their needs, which I thought was done really smoothly. There's also a couple of characters on the crew who are deaf, and sign language plays quite a significant part in the story. But at the same time, there's just like, I thought it was quite educational in terms of how hearing abled people can better interact with deaf people. There was also some bi representation and a female-female romance and some disabled representation, which I quite liked. So yeah, heaps of representation, some really great characters, but It was really only that handful of characters that I really cared about, and the rest were pretty much just mermaid bait. And sometimes there would be chapters dedicated to the mermaid bait characters, and I just didn't care about them. I just wanted them to die, which maybe is what she was going for. Overall, this was quite a slow-paced, character-based story, which isn't really what I was expecting from a horror. I was expecting something much more action-oriented. And there was some action, but it was kind of spread out amongst the character development, which I think I might have enjoyed more if I hadn't been rushing to finish the book before I had to return it to the library, maybe. But what it did mean is that it wasn't really that scary. I was purposely not reading this at night because I thought it might give me nightmares. But actually, like, wouldn't mermaid nightmares be totally cool? So I don't know why I did that. But regardless, I don't think it was really scary enough to give me nightmares. Maybe I do think the mermaids that are described in this story have the potential to be really terrifying. Like, the concept of them is terrifying, but the way the story was told, I was never really worried that my favorite characters would die. I mean, maybe sometimes I was, but I was okay with them dying. Like, if they died, I knew it would be in service of the story, and I thought, that's okay. I would really love to see like a movie version of this story. I think that with a little bit of more action added, the story would make an amazing movie, although I really don't know how well they would be able to do the special effects to pull off the mermaids, but if they could do it, it would be amazing. So if you're looking for a mermaid book, this is definitely one I would recommend, although I would warn you that it doesn't have that much action, so you're probably going to enjoy it more if you like more character-based novels. I do personally hope that there might be more books in this series. I'm not really sure if that's the plan, but I feel like we only really got a small taste of the mermaids and their world, and I would love to learn more about the mermaids. I hope this review's been helpful, and if you do pick up this book, I'd love to talk to you about it down in the comments. I hope you're having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.